What's up, guys? Welcome back to Storytime with Uncle Reddit. I'm John, and this is r/Tales from Auto Repair. Not much going on in Malicious Compliance right now, so we're going to do something a little bit different, mix it up a little. Hopefully you enjoy these stories too. Oh wow. Sounds like it's getting ready to storm. I'm hearing thunder from the other side of the river, so let's see how it goes. Thank you, sir. May I have another? I'm happily working away at my desk, making the world a better place one car repair at a time, and totally not checking my favorite subs on Reddit when my phone rings. Hello HK, it's Luke. He goes on to introduce himself, but I know who he is. We attend the same church, are on social media where he sometimes comments on my bad jokes, and he does accounting for a lot of my friends. We just haven't had a ton of face-to-face interaction. HK, I was wanting to ask a favor if I could. My wife works with a local charity that helps the homeless and those who are struggling, and they're trying to help a woman whose car is broken down. Could you take a look at it? Implied, of course, is that we will fix it for free or a greatly reduced price. That's understood. I get a few of these requests every year. We try to help where we can. Things are tough out there. One day it might be me needing a helping hand. Sometimes the shop needs to pull me back in and remind me we aren't a non-profit organization. I tell Luke that we've done several of these type of repairs over the years, and while sometimes they work well, a good number of them don't end well. The typical person who is so down on their luck as to need the charity's services usually has given little attention to their car's maintenance needs for a long time. As a result, we get in hopeless cases that the sum of the repairs add up to significantly more than the car is worth, and also more than the charity is willing to donate. But I have a heart for trying, even if I know things may not work out. It might mean all the difference. The other thing that happens is that somehow people get it into their minds that since we fixed the car once at no charge, that we're glad to fix it forever more for free as well. I had one such customer that even went so far as to start bringing in her friends who also were in similar financial distress. I had to shut that down quickly. It's hard as you want to help everyone, but the reality is that our budget for such is limited, even doing the repairs at cost. So they make arrangements to get the car towed using someone's roadside assistance plan. Things quickly go awry as the car hasn't even got here yet and the lady who owns the car is on the phone. She goes on a rant about the towing company that the roadside assistance people said and how they sent a wrecker instead of a rollback to tow her car. The difference being that 2 of the wheels are on the ground and 2 are on the wrecker instead of all 4 being off the ground on a rollback. She's positive her car is all-wheel drive and that they have damaged the driveline by towing it in such a manner. The tow guy shows up and we see the car on the back of the truck. What a beauty, it's a 2007 Dodge 300, and like I predicted, it's in less than mint shape. The body has all sorts of visible dings and dents, and the front bumper's hanging loose on one side. I kinda hope that the wrecker driver didn't do that damage, as his day is about to get much more interesting if so. We take pictures before he ever drops the car to establish that the car was delivered in that condition. The driver gets out of the truck, and the first thing he tells me is that the customer is a real handful. Great, just what we needed. A project with a customer who might not exactly be reasonable. The chances are slim to none this ends well, and I'm pretty sure Slim just took an Uber out of town. So we get the car in, and the first thing I need to know to satisfy my personal curiosity is if this car is in fact all-wheel drive. Without moving the car from where it was sitting, I looked underneath for any signs of front axles, differential or transfer case. Unless it was Bluetooth, there was in fact no sign of any components that would make the vehicle anything but a plain normal rear-wheel drive car. A day or two later, the tech gets time to go look at the car. They turn the key in the ignition and are rewarded by the sound of an engine spinning over quickly, unhindered by the slightest amount of any compression. We didn't pull the front covers off the timing belt, but a quick search reveals both engine sizes that year are in fact interference engines, which surely accounted for the odd noises we heard when cranking. No sense going any deeper on this one. Tag it and note the time of death, shall we? I call Luke, let him know that in our collective experience it's time to move from this car. It's not like a running 300 in the shape this one is in would be worth much money anyway. Pretty sure this one isn't getting fixed short of replacing the engine or pulling the heads, both of which are way more than anyone involved wants to spend. Luke asks about getting rid of a non-running car. I give him a few solutions on who is buying right now and predict the customer will want it towed back to wherever it came from. For some reason, it has been my experience, even after being advised there's absolutely no hope, people still want the car to look at. I guess when you don't have much, it's harder to part with what little you do have. Maybe the car will suddenly fix itself or something. Unsurprisingly, the customer does in fact elect to get it towed back to whatever yard the car was sitting in. Next thing I know, the same tow service shows up that delivered it. I give the driver, who is different from the first one, the heads up about the customer might be a bit difficult. He either called or right at the same time we were talking, his boss called him to let him know not to touch the vehicle, that they were not towing that car ever again due to the hard time the customer had given them previously. I was surprised they even came out in the first place after what had transpired. First tow company drives off, and after a bit the second one shows up. I tell him the customer might be difficult. He kind of laughed and said according to his info the customer was not where he was delivering the car, and he planned on dropping it and getting it done. Problem solved. But no. Luke called and the charity wants to know if we can look at a second vehicle for the same person. Only needs a ball joint. I'm like, okay, is this a 97 Chevy that needs a ball joint or a 1982 Mitsubishi Mighty Max, because the two are not the same. Look, I'm not that stupid. I have to see the candy before I get in the van the second time. Luke calls back and tells me it's a 2000 F-250 with a V10 and they'll be getting a new tow service to deliver it if I want to look at it. Well, I can't wait. Entitlement knows no race, religion, socioeconomic status. There's a lot of people out here that are entitled or feel entitled, and it's a shame. I've been on hard times before, and I do take what little help I can get when I'm in those positions, but I don't push either. If I had an all-wheel drive car and the guy towed it wrong, then it is on him, but I'm not going to like preemptively complain unless I know for a fact that it is all-wheel drive. But most tow drivers know to look for that kind of stuff because they know they get sued if they mess up somebody's car worse than it was. But yeah, honestly, charity only goes so far. In most of these cases, I've found that it's cheaper to find, a car for a couple grand that'll pass inspection or need very little work to pass inspection, get it on the road and donate that car to the person. And unfortunately, in many cases, when you try to help somebody in need, it's never enough. It was almost a good year. So for years, we've had a customer coming in. He's an Indian, not Native American, but rather from the subcontinent/country thereof. Many times I don't post customers' race or country of origin in my stories unless, like in this case, it's pertinent. Our customer's real name is probably something I can't begin to pronounce, but luckily he has instructed us to call him Billy. He is a Patel. Growing up in corn country, my interactions with people of varied backgrounds and origins was somewhat limited. So it was only after I had graduated college and was working at a high school, doing a long-term sub job, that I first was told by a nice co-ed student that, in answer to my question, Patel was like Smith or Jones here in the U.S., an extremely common last name. I was glad she clued me in, as I would have probably made a huge and embarrassing mistake otherwise, asking if they were related or kin, as we would say here in the South. So Billy is usually very pleasant to deal with, though his English isn't great. For the record, it's far better than my Hindi, or whatever his native language is, so I'm not throwing stones. Clearly he is multilingual, and I struggle with English and a smattering of Spanish. So for many years we've been able to get along, doing Billy's work and often asking a few questions to discern what he needed done. All was good. Not to stereotype, but it's a cultural thing for Indians, as most will ask for a good deal or a good price, and want discounts on everything. We managed to satisfy his requests on those times and make him happy, up until that fateful day. Last year, Billy came in and we're hopping busy. The board is full, like many of our summer days are, and we have serious backlog. I don't write Billy up, but another person does. But I clearly hear him tell Billy that we will not have the car ready until 4 p.m. due to our workload. Somewhere along the way, we had a failure to communicate, because 2 hours later, at 10 a.m., Billy shows up inquiring about the status of his car. We attempt to explain the car is in line to be serviced, but we have a ton of cars to be fixed, and he's going to have to be patient. So Billy tries to say we promised the car way earlier, and he told us that he in fact needed the car much earlier, but we shut that down pretty quick. He can take the car unserviced, or he can wait. He wants the car serviced, but is not happy. 3 hours later, Billy is back, even though we haven't called him. We let him know yet again the car is not ready. He stomps out. Finally, about 3:30 p.m., we finish his car. He shows up instantly. I think he never actually went far after the first afternoon visit. Just kind of hovered out of sight and watched to see when his car went in and out. My counterpart checks him out, being polite the entire time. Bobby is not as pleasant as he normally is. After finishing the paperwork... Bobby or Billy? Anyway... After finishing the paperwork, he heads for the door and then dramatically turns as he has one hand on the door and loudly announces to all of us up front, "I know, come back!" We were kind of numb to his announcement. After all, we had actually come in 30 minutes early over our first estimate on time, and we had worked hard all day getting all our customers' cars out. It wasn't like we had intentionally done anything to him, and I had heard him being told it would be 4 p.m. to get the car finished. But since I never waste an opportunity to have fun at work, back in the back I made up a sign far from where any customer would see, much like you see at big factories. But instead of the sign saying how long it's been since an accident, my signs say, X many days since Billy P said he was never coming back. I used to update it. Day 3, day 21, day 109. I never for 1 minute doubted he would someday come back. I can't begin to list all the customers who have returned after saying they wouldn't over something trivial. Yesterday I had to take Christy to the doctor. Lingering back issues had left her hurting for several years. But when I got back, the guys told me I would not believe who came in acting like nothing had ever happened. Yup, Billy showed up and got his vehicle serviced. As soon as I heard this, I just had to look at my sign. 349 days. There's a lot of Billies out there. There's people, they bring their car in and maybe it needs a new timing belt or chain and they act like it's just an oil change. They think they're going to get it back in 30 minutes and God help you if you make them wait for parts. If you got to order something in and it's going to take a day just to get the parts and then a day to fix it, maybe 2 days, or got to wait a couple days because you got a backlog of cars waiting, then yeah, people will flip out. And I get it. You need your vehicle, but at the same time, things break. Everything can't always go your way. If you hurry, you should just make it. So it's hot. Real hot. How hot is it? Fool, it's hot. I told you again. Were you born on the sun? Okay, so it's maybe not as hot as Robin Williams said it was in Good Morning Vietnam, but it's right toasty. A youngish man, 18 to 22, comes in. He's quite stirred up. He tends to stutter. My technique with stutterers is to try to put them at ease as much as possible by using verbal and visual cues in the hopes that they can calm down and be able to tell me what's going on. It usually works. So he tells me that they're across the street and have a flat tire on their car and need assistance. Like most shops around here, we're slammed. Tech work is backed up days, and even oil changes and tire repairs can take 3 to 4 hours most days. Everyone's working as hard as they can, just so much a person can do in a day, especially in high heat and humidity. We encourage everyone to stay hydrated and do what they can. The shop provides lots of water, popsicles with electrolytes and Gatorade. We also encourage them to take extra breaks if they're feeling the effects of the heat. No sense overdoing it and getting a hospital visit. The customers will have to understand, and that's my job, to set expectations. So I grab one of our newest guys and send him across with an air tank to see if he can render this guy and his mother any aid. Soon enough, he comes back. No joy. He said the tire was off the rim and wouldn't take air. Next thing we know is that the customer is driving into the lot from across the street, flat tire and all. I was mildly surprised, and it sure didn't do the tire or rim any good. The guy and his mother get out of the car, and I get them inside where it's cool. Mother is large. She's wearing something a bit too stylized to be a muumuu, but you get the picture. She's a bit agitated and also thankful that we're trying to help her. Before we get too far, she announces the tires are under warranty at a competitor. Oh good, the plot thickens. I could have played hardball in that it's clear this is going to be more trouble than it's worth, but that's not how we roll. I tell her in that case, since they should cover what we're pretty sure is going to be a tire replacement, I'll get the guys to install their spare. They pull it in and start in on that very procedure. But then another plot twist. This is a new car, and many models now don't come with spares. Rather, they come with a can that's supposed to inflate the tire in case of a flat. It's a joke in my opinion, and if you're driving a newer car, you need to determine if you have a spare or an inflator before you run into any issues. In this case, with the tire off the rim where they hit a curb, it's less than useful. We go through our junk tire pile in the hopes that the tire is close to the right size is there, but no dice. The shop manager jacks the car up and grabs the bazooka, better than a cheetah for inflating the tires. This bad boy shoots more air in a shorter time than a traditional bead seeder. We got one, and now every service truck has one for doing semi-tires as well as one in both shops. It sounds like a gunshot when you pull the trigger, and can really make people jump. Now inflated on the rim, we can check the tire. It's leaking from the sidewall and not repairable, so what the customer apparently did was hit a curb and knock the tire off the rim. The sidewall got the hole from either meeting the curb or the drive over to our shop from across the street while flat. The shop manager pulls the car out while I'm explaining to the customer. He leaves it running out front. They put 50 psi in the tire to help. It's a slow leak. The customer wants to pay something, but I'm looking at the car thinking the clock is ticking. They have about 3 miles to go and 8 traffic lights. I decline payment and tell them to make haste to head over to the competitor. The clock is ticking. No time to run the card, wait for the printer, etc. They load up and head out. She claims she'll come back later to settle up, but we both know that most likely will never happen. I'll update the story if she ever does. I hope they made it. Well, that was really nice of you guys to help out in any way you can, honestly. I get it. You know, I had 4 brand new tires put onto my camper not too long ago, and we were heading to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I got about 3 miles from the house and was going around a roundabout and managed to clip the curb with the rear passenger tire on the camper, brand new, knocked it off the rim and dented the rim just a little bit. I couldn't stop where I was. I did have to drive a little bit further up the street to be able to pull off safely and not be in everybody's way. And we ended up waiting about 2 hours for the company to show up. They brought a tire with them just in case. And they could, bead seat it and everything right there on the side of the road. The only thing they can't do is balance it. But on most trailer tires, I don't worry too bad about it unless something's really out of whack. Yeah, sure enough, as soon as they jacked it up, I could see the rip in the sidewall from where I hit the curb. And, yeah. So $200 later, we got a new tire on and sledgehammered the rim back into shape to keep the bead sealed. And I'll tell you, first of all, I can't afford a new car, but even if I could, I'd probably run right out, find a generic rim that's the right size for that car, and put a spare in my car somewhere. Even if it's a donut. I don't really trust trying to use some sort of industrial fix-a-flat. You shred a sidewall, it's not going to help you. So, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the stories today. And if you did, would you do me a favor? Would you click like on this video? Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And click that little bell icon so you don't miss the fat guy with the beard telling you stories. See ya.